Yo, welcome everyone once again to the We Are Gamers series. My name is Champ Tone, aka Sykosys, a gamer with a passion for Jesus and gaming. And it is a true pleasure once again to grace your space this day, wherever you're at, on whatever you're listening to. Today we will be continuing these 1v1 great series that we have with our gamer friends, just showcasing who they are as people, as a person. Today, I have the honor of introducing probably the best sniper I know who has carried me in multiple games to many victories. Let me introduce Muggleslayer. Welcome, Muggle.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. Good night. It's Thursday.
Yes.
Feeling
Isn't
pretty
that
good. Excited to be here.
isn't that great? I mean, it's like all right, weekend's coming.
I know. That's all
Oh,
you have to look forward to as an adult.
I know, right? All right, awesome. So if you don't mind, just give us your first name. I usually just do first name because usually you don't want to do first and last
Like
because
RL.
yeah,
Jalissa.
if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Jalissa. And so I know your tag as Muggle Slayer. Is
Yeah.
there any other name that you use for your online gamer names, or are there other names, or I guess series of names that you use?
So, my longest I'm saying the one I've had for the longest is Muggleslayer. I've had that since like
Hmm.
Xbox One days. And recently I got into Lost Ark and I got Invader Loom, Merciful Loom. There's a bunch of names, but in the Loom genre. But yeah, usually Muggle Slayer.
Nice, nice. So why choose those names? What is it about those names that have the meaning for you to choose those or even that series?
So for Muggle Slayer, since I came up with it when I was in my teens, and I started playing Halo. So I wanted like an intimidating name. It's not even deep, it's just a nerd name, and I was a big Harry Potter head, so
Mm.
I was just like Muggle, that's perfect. And
Hmm.
then I was like,
Hmm.
what's intimidating? And Slayer came out. And yeah, Muggle Slayer, the birth of Muggle Slayer.
Nice. So that's pretty much because I that's the name that you try to go with all the time, though, right? Just with
Yeah,
Muggle Slayer and everything.
it's usually
Nice.
not taken, but as of recently,
Mm.
it has. I don't know why.
Oh no! Oh no! People are catching on.
I hope
That's
not.
that's cool. So this next question though, this is always a tricky one. So if you don't mind, you can actually give the bracket that your age is in. I just like to
Mhm.
ask our interviewees their age and when they started gaming. So if you could just give us your age or age range, and when did you
Okay.
actually start gaming?
I'll do the bracket thing, 35 to 39. Uh,
Nice.
and I started gaming at a very young age. I want to say it was like 5.
Oh wow.
It was the Legend of Zelda, and which it came out a few years prior to that. But yeah, I remember that being my first game. So around 5, I want to say.
Wow. That's actually probably one of the best games to start with. Not for
I
nothing.
know.
So
It taught me a lot in terms of like, you know,
really, what do you mean?
maneuvering in games, because it was
Mm,
just to dive into, I guess, the Legend of Zelda instead of like, Super Mario Brothers. I think it was
mm,
a
mm-hmm.
pretty challenge at that age. But I watched my sister and my cousins play it all the time, so I kind of just picked it up just watching them. So
Mm. That's interesting. So yeah, that actually is interesting. So what was it about video games that that drew you to actually play them? I know you said how you started with Zelda instead of Mario. Usually you're right. It's the other way around. People start with the platformer instead of the RPG-ish puzzle game. So what was it about video games that drew you to play them?
so I was introduced to video games by like my uncle and my sister, and just watching them play all the time, you
Hmm.
know, having that backseat moment. It
Hmm.
was always fun to watch, and then at some point they encouraged me to try, and it wasn't as scary,
Hmm. Hmm.
as I thought it was gonna be. And I just like, I mean, some people say it's silly, but like the immersion that you get, especially at a young age, and the stuff that you learn, it was a great. I don't want to say escape, because I feel like video games is a little more than that.
What do you
It's
mean?
more of like
Go ahead.
I would consider it more of like a hobby.
Mm,
And I wouldn't say that all hobbies are escapes, but you enjoy it, but you also progress at your own pace, and it's just a I feel like it's a part of what you do, and I feel like our generation and later generations um really took on playing video games and it being okay. It's no longer like a slacker thing or degenerates
mm.
to it. It's a normal thing to do, I guess is what it.
Interesting. That's interesting you say that though, because that kind of leads me into this next question though, because I know families' reactions when we start video games, and you did mention your family actually drawing you in saying, "Hey, do you want to play?" Even though I know sometimes, because even I've done it as with my kids, you give them the controller so they feel like they're playing, even
Mhm.
though even though they're not, and they get so excited
The
because they
bad
feel.
controller
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, right. The broken one that doesn't work at all. You give them that one. It's like, oh yeah, you're playing. Good job. And you see that you see it in their eyes, and they seem to get so excited. So so how was your family's reaction? The majority of your family when you actually started gaming. Was it, positive, negative? Did no one care? Or I know there's different. This is always an interesting question. So.
So, there wasn't that much negative, uh, reactions towards gaming in my
Hmm.
family. It was just something that, some people watch TV, novelas, some people are really active and rather do stuff outdoors. But like I said, my uncle, Nintendo came out and he decided to, invest, if you want to call it that. And he got us a Nintendo, but, it came in a plastic bag, so who only knows where it came from. But
Wow.
yeah, but we got it and it was a big deal and we all sat down and my mom would even like watch us play and stuff like that and it did become
Mm,
like a family pastime from time to time and because of that and because it kept me from you know uh going out and maybe like I don't know, I don't necessarily think I would have been a bad kid, but I felt like my mom knew where I was when I was playing video games, so she wasn't really against it. And
mm,
I managed to balance schoolwork and gaming very
mhm.
well because for me it was just like something that I would de-stress with or something like that or something I look forward to later on in the day.
Yeah.
So she really didn't. It wasn't negative, and since my sister was into it as well, and my cousins, and
Mhm,
we would
mhm.
get together. It would keep us together playing and happy and stuff. She wasn't against it. Most of my family was okay with gaming.
That's interesting. It seems like they actually and they played with you, right? I mean, from what it sounds like, you guys all played together or took turns and stuff, no?
Yeah, we took turns, and my uncle, yeah, he always played with us. And if a new game came out, he would get it
Mhm.
for us, and he would play it at first, and he would
In,
watch us play. So yeah,
in
it was a family
in the brown paper bag, just the
thing.
cartridge.
No, the games he actually purchased, but the Nintendo came out of nowhere. If you want to say
It's like, hey, here you go. Oh man, that's great. Well, this next question though is about your personal heritage and cultural background. So you did mention novela, which I know is Spanish for soap operas. So
that.
yeah, just give us more about your heritage and cultural background.
So, I come from a family of like Dominican heritage,
Mm.
but I'm first generation, so my parents came here in their early teens, so they kind of got into a lot of American culture at an early age, like they were 16.
Oh,
So when
okay.
I came here and it was sorry, when they came here in the 70s and stuff, they just dove right in and
Hmm.
learned a lot about the cultures and trends and stuff like that. Um but they kept a lot of their culture
Mm.
intact, as most Hispanic cultures are like that. They're very good at
Hmm.
maintaining their cultural identity. But yeah, no, I think it was a good balance of uh American culture and learning what
Hmm.
they learned through assimilating, I guess if you want to call it that. And then also still maintaining some of that like I said, balance and
Hmm.
learning about how they grew up and where they come from. So I felt it was a good balance.
Nice, nice, nice. That's awesome. So so with that culture, has there been any positive or negative impact on your personal gaming experience that just your culture has had on it at all, if any?
No, I mean I have some like old school like aunts and uncles and stuff that
Hmm.
I would say mostly that don't live in the States that might see it negative. But I just feel like gaming has always been a
Mm.
positive thing in my family because it doesn't like it never led to anything negative or anything like that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
um it wasn't like encouraged by everybody. It wasn't also like, shunned or anything. It was just, that's what
Mm.
they do on their pastime. So yeah.
Got you.
And I would say like in terms of being Latino and well Latina I should say sorry and gaming like I feel like with gaming even when you're in voice chat you're still kind of anonymous. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
um it was never a factor in gaming for me.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm. That's actually interesting to hear. So why do you still play video games now? I mean, you're in your past, you're in that 30 bracket, and and it seems like it's just been a real positive experience for you. So why do you still play video games to this day? Because you're still actively playing. I mean, I know this personally because you carried my behind, the other day in a raid, and I seen you post your videos on Instagram. Awesome, by the way, with those sniping. I missed those, but yeah. So why do you still play video games now?
So I've always found video games fun. I mean, and there were times when I would take breaks in gaming and stuff like that. But
Mm,
for the most part, I always felt like I said, it's my pastime, it's my hobby. So
mm-hmm,
I think with the gaming trends over the years in terms of the genres,
mm,
I was into first person shooters, and because of that, and because there was like heavy focus on first person shooters for a long time, and
mm-hmm,
a lot of other genres kind of went stale for a bit. I think that kept me gaming because I went from first person shooter to first person shooter to first person shooter, so I always had
mm-hmm,
something.
mm,
And I think once Overwatch came out a few years ago,
mm-hmm,
and like I mean, I played Destiny, Crucible, I played Gears, PvP. I even played Mass Effect 3. It had an awesome PvP mode, by the way, and I loved playing that. So I kind of just stuck with it. And like I said, there were so many options then, not so much now. So
mm,
it kind of kept me in the gaming world. And from time to time, I would play other types of games. Like I played Skyrim on
mm-hmm.
3 different platforms. I'm sure at this point, and Fallout and all
Nice.
that. So in between when like good games came out, I would
Mm-hmm,
also like dive back into that. But I was fortunate enough to have options for first person shooters, so I think that kept
mm,
me engaged. And like I said, like there's been other like gaming hits out there that brought me back. So I just feel like it's my hobby. I love doing it. I love gaming.
yeah. So and you're yeah. So first person shooters are your thing then. Like that seems to be and for not just first person shooters, but also the PvP aspect. You really like that. I didn't even know Mass Effect had a PvP mode. I think you're the
Yeah,
one who told me about it, and I was like, "What? Mass
it was
Effect has a
great.
PvP mode?" And
It
I
was
was
the
just
only
like,
good thing
"Oh,
about
okay,
it.
really? That's
Yeah, it
hilarious."
was.
Wait, you didn't? So you weren't? What? No, you did. You like Mass Effect? Like, because that was like a big that game was kind of nuts. It was a big hit, but I know it had the three. It spanned the three, one, two, and three. It was a trilogy,
Yeah,
and I know I think the second one I thought was a little weak, and the third one, the way it ended, I thought was crazy. Yeah, so you
it
weren't
was.
really. Mhm. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. You
No, no, no. Go. I was just gonna
so,
say, go. You go. I'm not talking. I'm not talking. I'm
sorry,
not
sorry,
saying
sorry.
anything.
I'm new to this. So I played 1 and 2, loved 2. 2 was actually my favorite.
Mm.
I think I prepped like 4 characters ready for 3. And
Wow.
when 3 launched, I took the day off from work. I literally played it straight through. And because I had different characters and I knew how my story progressed in 2 and 1,
Mm. Mm.
um there were small things that I found disappointing in 3 where like it didn't continue or it didn't really matter, which a lot of RPGs do nowadays, where your supposed like choice
Yeah.
is supposed to affect the game, but they tend to tie back in, and like
Mm.
it's like irrelevant, like because you still end up in the same direction. But I felt like it didn't continue part of the stories based off of your choices from 1 and 2, so that was a little disappointing. But it wasn't a game changer. But
Mm.
at the end of 3, like you said, there was the 3 options, and me and my friends talked about the options we got at the end, and it was all pretty much the same regardless of what we did in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That was a bummer, but I was unfortunate because I played it at launch, so it didn't have the DLC after everyone blew up and,
Mm.
and, and was upset about it. So I was stuck in that like part of the game, in that story, and I did play the DLC and it did make it better, and then eventually I played the
Mm.
remastered
Mm.
version and I did like it the second time around. But I think it was just because I played it at launch, which nowadays too you get that sometimes games at launch aren't that great. So
Yeah. No, I hear you.
yeah, it was a great series though. Like I thought it was such a great series. So
You,
overall, I wouldn't even complain about it.
you want to hear something funny? So for Mass Effect 3, I played, I believe it was the extended edition.
Hmm.
So there was a fourth ending that
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
heard.
even know there was a fourth ending. So if you shoot the AI, it ends the sequence and you automatically get the worst ending possible. I didn't know that. So I was just like, let me just shoot this thing and see what happens. And the game ended. I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't supposed to do that. So here, let's go into this next question then. Oh, this is great, by the way. What is your favorite video game? Your number one video game of all time? And I mean, like, this is the game that gives you the feels that you can go back to, that you just have no issues with this game at all.
Mm,
Yeah, it's this one.
so I would say, and especially playing it again, it would be Mass Effect 2.
Really, of
Um,
all time.
yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but in terms of like when I first played, I loved 1.
Mm,
Even though it had some faults, like in terms of mechanics, but
yeah,
it was the first of, you know what I mean. It was the first one, so of course that's
right.
gonna happen. But I just love 2 so much. But I would say it is my it's tied, because I'm gonna say the game that changed my world, and if it was remastered, I would play it forever, was Ocarina of Time. That changed my life.
Ocarina of Time. Listen, you want to
Yeah.
hear something crazy? You have to be probably the third or fourth person that we've had that has given that game as their number one game of
Yeah.
all time. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see it though. Like, and it's funny because one of my buddies, we were talking after the cast was over, and he's like, you know, someone who played Ocarina of Time when they know about the water temple.
Oh,
When yeah, see,
I can speedrun it.
wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh my! Did you get stuck on it too the first time? Like, because I know there were a couple people. What it was the one part where you have to put the key in the door, and if you put
Hmm.
the wrong key, that was you had to reset the game.
Yep. So I watched my sister play through and she hated it. I mean, she's like one of those people that hates
Really?
all water levels in any game.
Oh my goodness! I
So I
mean,
watched her like bumble through it sometime, like for a bit, and then when it was my playthrough, because you had your different save files,
hmm,
um I just took my time with each part of it,
yeah.
and I developed like and I did this for all of Ocarina of Time, like even the timing to get your horse or your sword and stuff like that. I did all of that in
Mm.
sequence. So for the water temple, and if I were to see it, I think I could do it again. You just had to make sure you got the keys in the right order,
Right.
uh, in the most efficient manner. So like I would just literally remember which floors to go to. I remember there's one you had to like where the iron boots go down,
Hmm.
take off the boots and rise into the second level,
Hmm.
grab the key. Like I remember it all.
Wow. Wow. You
So
really
yeah,
do.
I
That's
love that game so much.
that's so awesome. So you said so you can speed run it really? Have you actually ever timed yourself?
So when I was in college, my sister's coworker, who was
Mm.
another huge Legend of Zelda fan, he said he could beat it within like I think a few hours, and I told him I think I can beat you, and I timed myself, and I think it took me like maybe a little over an hour, and that was just me
Wow.
casually doing it, but I knew exactly that my sequence or whatever and stuff. So I feel like
Yeah.
if I walk through the whole game and I try to do it again, yeah, it was like down to a science. My sister was so like amazed by it. It was my one claim to fame in gaming for my family and friends.
That's
So yeah,
that's all. I mean,
the
and
water.
any gamer who has played Ocarina of Time will agree that that is a heck of a claim to fame. That's all I'm saying, because we've played it and we understand the frustration of that one level, which which I think is so great too. So when you showed him that you were able to beat it so fast, what was his response? Was he like upset? Was he like, "Oh wow"? I mean, because I know sometimes guys can get a little. It depends on the guy, but sometimes they can get a little, you know what I mean? If especially if a girl beats him at a video game.
So I was fortunate enough to have like a lot of cousins that were girls and guys, and
Mm,
no, we had a really good like good sportsmanship, if you want to call it. Like
mm,
we encourage each other, we would hype each other up, and like when someone would beat something, like we would always like cheer and stuff like that. And I have a
nice,
cousin that's like only 3 days older than me, and he's like he was my biggest cheerleader in terms of like gaming, like
nice.
um and I feel like no, it never got that way. Even like with in past relationships and things, like I've never
Mm, mm,
experienced that kind of
mm-hmm,
attitude towards like a woman being able to game. But I remember in the first Halo
mm-hmm.
for like the old Xbox days, do you remember the last level
Yes,
with the warthog?
yes.
I watched my cousin and my ex-boyfriend play that for hours, and they couldn't do it in what was the it wasn't legendary mode. Was that it legendary, the hardest mode?
The hardest mode. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was the hardest mode, but it
Well,
was one of them.
yeah. So they were trying and they couldn't figure it out. And at that point, I'd played Halo a long time with them,
Mm-hmm.
and especially Big Team Slayer. So I knew like how the warthog worked. And they let me try it, and I one shot it. And like my
That's
cousin
hilarious.
obviously was there, and he was just like, "That's my cousin." So yeah, like I've
Nice.
always had support from both
That's
genders. Like it was
that,
never the
That's
alternate.
actually pretty awesome. Actually, that's good. So this leads us to this next question. What's your one gaming memory that you'll never forget? And this doesn't necessarily have to be a good memory. It could be a bad memory. But what's that one gaming moment that you've had, that you've experienced, that you will never forget?
You're gonna like this answer. I'm gonna have to say because it was the biggest challenge and it was the most because I played first person shooters and I felt like everyone carried the weight in my
Mm,
group and stuff like that. So everybody
hmm.
had clutch moments, everybody had ace moments. So that was normal for me, and doing campaign on certain games, Halo, Gears of
Hmm.
War, everything I played, it was always a great achievement with your group. But I'm
Hmm.
gonna say the one gaming memory that was the most impactful was the Destiny raid. um and
Oh,
someone just
which?
told me the other day what it was called. Okay, so I'll explain it to you in my terrible gaming terms. So it's the one where there's like a jungle in the middle, and like there's I think maybe 3 or 4 of the teammates are at the top, and then the rest are at the bottom, and they're like these hounds that you have to like shine a light beam on.
Yes, I know that.
um
That's not Leviathan,
I
or
think it
is
was the
that?
first maybe of Destiny 2, was it? Or what? Yeah, I think it was Leviathan. I
That
think it
you were
was.
go keep going, keep going.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you might explain it better. Go ahead.
No. I'm just trying to just figure out the name of it. Keep explaining. Keep explaining.
Um, so, and that was one part of it. And I remembered
Hmm.
we struggled with that because you had to communicate entirely, and it was through crappy
Yes.
Xbox One parties. And I just remember everybody had to play their part, and if you made the slightest mistake, it was over.
Right.
And then the next part of it, it was the there were like towers, and like
Hmm.
the raid boss would appear on like the different towers, and you had to like
Yes.
do different maneuvers, and then it would take you to another place where it was like the raid boss was at the end, and there were like waves of things, and you had to either, I don't know if it was hide behind something or like use an ability to make sure you wouldn't get knocked back or you would like wipe the. It was just so challenging and it took us hours to do.
Yeah, that one
And
was long.
once we complete, I'm telling you, it almost ruined friendships. But once we completed it, it was one of the best feelings ever. We all went back to the tower and danced together for like another hour and laughed about it and stuff. And I'm gonna say that was definitely my biggest like gaming moment.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that so yeah, I don't remember. That was Destiny 2?
Maybe it was one of the first raids, so I want to say it had to be the first raid of two.
Because I remember the dogs. The
Hmm.
dogs
And
would
the
be
laser
unleashed. Yeah, and you had to so you needed people who were good at clearing ads.
beam.
You
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
didn't just need damage. You needed people that yeah, that raid took I I think I tried it once and after the first hour I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm never getting this done." And and I've seen my friends stream it at the time and yeah, Destiny I think it was Destiny 2 or a video or something. Yeah, that was a crazy raid. Wow. So and then you beat that raid and everyone's celebrating. That's such a good memory. Oh my goodness.
Amazing feeling, yeah. I never did another Destiny raid after that because it was a lot of time. Like we spent hours on it, but it felt so good completing that.
And it's so crazy, right? Once you actually have an achievement like that that takes you forever, you physically are exhausted.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I slept for. I mean, I think it took us like 6 hours. It took a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz is that the one with the maze? That there
Yeah,
was a
I feel
maze
like
you had
there
to
was a
go through at
maze.
first and it
Mhm.
just it just took a lot of time just getting
Mhm.
to the certain points, right? Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
have to deal with the laser dogs and all that. Yeah,
Right.
it
It was
was insane.
that part I remember. That part was just I was like, "Oh my god, what is happening? This
I
is
know.
insane."
It improved my comms for sure going forward because you really
Really?
had to communicate. Yeah,
They're like,
that
"Get
was
the
definitely
ads,
the
get
one
the ads.
that
The ads
I'll
are
never
here. Get the ads." Oh my goodness. That's great. All right, so let's go into this next question. That's a great memory, by the way.
thank you.
So this next question is more of a technical question because hey, we're gamers, and as a gamer, we pretty much touch technology a lot because it's part of our hobby, like you said, and it's just part of what we do. You know what I mean? Everything we game on is the latest technology, is stuff that's going forward, that's being new. So how do you feel the actual evolution of technology has been or impacted on your own personal gaming experience? Has it been a positive, a negative? Has it been both? How do you feel it's actually impacted your experience?
I think absolutely it's had a positive impact. I feel like the evolution of gaming in terms of like technology, graphics,
Mm, mm,
everything, it's amazing. And there are so many different types of gaming genres. I feel like there's something for everyone. It just depends on what you like. But
yeah.
uh, I was like I told you, I was watching the Akon raid for Lost Ark, and I've never seen, even down to the cutscene,
Mm,
um, a game designed that way. And I feel like it's leaning towards a beautiful direction, but you do have some negative like aspects to it.
mm,
With games like, I mean, I know a few people enjoy it, but in terms of it looking amazing but not playing well, like Cyberpunk,
oh,
for example, or I'm
yeah.
trying to, yeah, um, where it just relies heavily on not just hype, but
Mm,
it didn't add anything to the gaming world because it was so unfinished, I guess you could say. And
mm, mm.
what was that game? The Kojima game. I played it for like hours and it would make me sleepy, but it was great in terms of mechanics.
Kojima?
Um, yeah, hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Oh, I can't. It's like right there
Death
on the.
Stranding. Death Stranding.
Yes.
Um, that's the same, but differently. It introduced mechanics that I've never played in a game before. And it had
Mm,
so much to do but it
Mhm.
felt really isolating in a way because even though there were some, I wouldn't say collaborative, there were some social aspects of the game where you can
Mhm.
build a bridge and somebody else could use it, but you would never see that person in that instance.
Mm.
It felt very isolating, and I know that was part of the draw of the game because
Mhm.
I'm not gonna spoil anything, but in terms of the story, you are like the lone man, so it was part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to see that if they were to make a continuation of it where there was some kind of collaboration, like
Mm.
that's where I feel like it's trying to take a game to a completely different level, and so I
Mhm.
wasn't mad at it. It was a
Mhm.
well-developed game and it was complete. It was meant to be the way that it was. But for something like Cyberpunk, like I said, like if it just isn't playable at
Mm.
launch or even let's say what is it now, a year or two after launch,
I think
it
they've
just
got
seems like
some stuff fixed.
it just feels like it was a cash grab. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
so
I,
that's one part of it. And then
mm.
I feel like the rise of gotcha games is a little, I wouldn't say concerning, but
Mm.
it depending on what you like, because I like Genshin, I'm not gonna lie, even though
Mhm.
I spent hours and money on that game. When it came down to like actual gameplay, I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't get to do much when I
Mm.
played it. So
Mhm.
um I
Mm.
hope that we do get I'm not gonna hate on gotcha games because I feel like it gives you so much more than games used to. Like, you would get a DLC with some skins and stuff like that. Here you have the option to get as many skins as you want or many characters as you want,
Right.
as much as you're willing to spend. But as long as there's actual gameplay, like a game like Lost Ark where you can do stuff,
Mm. Mhm.
I feel like it then again it's going down that direction where you're just trying to get money. Um
Right.
so yeah, I hope
Which
there's a balance.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen that too, the whole and it's interesting cuz I played games that were made by gamers and it's such a different the gameplay matters so much and it's hard nowadays, right? To find that game that it's all about the gameplay and there's no monetization. Even though don't get me wrong, games like Lost Ark, I think they found a good medium with that,
Hmm.
with the whole, hey, we have a lot of cosmetics for you, but then their cosmetics kind of impact your gameplay because they do give you a bit more stats. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But at the same time, you can play the full game
Hmm.
and not have to buy it. You
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
yeah, I totally get that aspect. I get that aspect a lot, and yeah, gaming has come such a far way. Like from what was your first console? It was
Uh,
Xbox.
no, we had a Nintendo. I still have my Nintendo and
Yes,
Super
yes,
Nintendo and
that's right.
Nintendo
The
64.
Nintendo in the bag. That's right. I forgot.
My sister, one of my cousins had a what was that weird thing with the joystick?
Atari.
Yeah, Atari. They had an Atari and I played that, but
Mm,
I was too young and I uncoordinated, so um I kind of didn't really get it, but I
mm.
would say Nintendo kind of introduced me to game mechanics and I
That
kind of
was
got it.
really that was the beginning of the legend, the beginning of the legendary Muggleslayer. Oh man, this was amazing. This was amazing. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. All right, so we're at our time here, and I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Muggleslayer, for being a part of this. It's always a pleasure. Just our conversations that we have, even offline, when we're just messing around and stuff like that. It's and you carry very well, and you're still the best sniper I know. I'll say that hands down. I've
Oh,
some of the
thank you.
plays you've made have been amazing. So,
Thank
and
you so much for having me.
oh, thank you for coming. I mean, this was really good. I was so excited for this. Oh man. All right, so we're just gonna wrap things up here. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. We appreciate you. You are absolutely awesome. Jesus loves you. And Ganadora.